Madrid against man. Only Atletico against.
Say San Siro, not a joke.
But I say San Siro. Ube Johnny. But why they no? Yes, what else? But Lamine Yamal. But born here, born. One game. Two game. France.
All right, so full time at the Luis Company Stadium, Barcelona failing to take the advantage heading to the second leg at the Giuseppe Meazza. But you talk about a classic UEFA Champions League football. You talk about a classic UEFA Champions League knockout stage game, and this is an epitome of what the UEFA Champions League is about. 6 goals, 3 apiece. No one with the advantage. Perhaps we could say it's tilted, favorably towards Inter because of what they did. But then you take nothing away from Barcelona. But what a game we witnessed, and we still here around Dansoman Junction. It's the Spices Kitchen where we've been bringing to you the watch along, party as far as the UEFA Champions League is concerned. And I'm pleased to have been joined by Force, who is going to help me with our analysis. Force, you talk about the UEFA Champions League, and this is a classic UEFA Champions League game. This is what you want to see on any night at all, either Tuesday or Wednesday. This is the sort of game you want to see.
Well, Josiah, I mean, if you were at a stadium today between Barcelona and Inter Milan, even if you had paid €1,000, £1,000, there's no way that you are going to regret that money. You understand? Because this is what the Champions League serves you. And I'm very happy that such a matchup came up in the semis of the Champions League, because it epitomizes what football is all about. And I am very happy, and I know that the footballing gods are going to be happy that they witnessed such a game.
But interestingly, we all thought, it's one side with, so much attacking prowess, then it's another with one of the best and most coordinated defenses you've ever seen. But you're seeing 3-3 after full time, and you're thinking, no, who actually lost? Because if you are looking at the strength of either side, they'll be thinking, Inter, being known for their defensive prowess, shouldn't be conceding way too many goals.
But you see, Josiah, what you have to realize is that, I mean, over the past couple of matches that Inter has been able to play, they've not really kept a clean sheet. You understand? I mean, they've lost 3 matches in a row coming into the game against Barcelona. So defensively, they are not as astute as we have known them to be. Especially in 2012 when they won the Champions League against Bayern. The same time, meeting Barcelona in the semis. So this is just a repeat of that time. But one thing that we have noticed about this defensive setup of Inter Milan is the fact that even though they are defensively drilled, they still have a lot of spaces in between them. And you see, I don't blame them too much for the spaces in between them, but because the Barcelona setup is able to create the spaces in between them, because no matter how narrow you are, if you have players who are very quick, if you have players who are pacey, if you have players who can dribble, if you have players who can see the spaces and then try the balls in between them, the gaps are going to be open. And remember that they are not going to be compact for 90 minutes. No matter what you do, they are going to get tired along the line. And that is what we saw on the day. Especially from Lamine Yamal, he was able to create the chances. He was able to get the spaces. But how do you use the spaces? That is where the problems are.
Interesting. But talk to me about Barcelona and the setup. Yeah, we understood. Going down, 2 goals inside the first 20 minutes. You'll be thinking that at least that could even, just put them at the edge of their seats. Yes, it did. But in the response and the kind of confidence they played with, even when they were 2 down, you hardly see that, from teams even at this stage.
Well, you see, Josiah, I mean, to start with, okay, I was very surprised with the tactical layout, because I thought that they were going to come into the game with a 4-3-3, formation. And you see, bear in mind that this is the first time this season that Barcelona has totally veered off from the traditional 4-3-3 system. For more than 15 to 20 years, they have stuck with that 4-3-3 system because that is what they are known for. But this season, they have varied the system. They've played a 4-3-3, they've played a 4-2-1-3, they played a 4-1-2-3 system, depending on the players that are available. But today, against Inter Milan, they laid up in the 4-2 in the 4-2-1-3 system. You know, I was very surprised because why are you going up against Inter Milan, who is going to be defensive, and then you have two defensive midfielders in Pedri and then in De Jong? But you see, don't forget the fact that even though they have two defensive midfielders in Pedri and De Jong, they are not typical defensive midfielders. These are players who are comfortable on the ball. These are players who can pass the ball. These are players who can dribble. So you have two defensive midfielders who are not necessarily defensive midfielders, but they also add up to the attack. So then you have the wide wingers. You have Lamine Yamal, who to me was the man of the match. You know, and then you have Rafinha on the other flank. But you see, one thing about the Barcelona setup that I really like is the fact that now they are not keeping the ball in their half as we have seen them do previously. But no matter how wide they keep the ball, they try to position the ball further away from their post, meaning that they are quicker. They move the ball quickly nowadays, and 1, 2, 3 passes, they are in the boxes of the position, and that is what they have been able to do. And against Inter Milan, they did that very effectively. They were able to, after going down 2-0, not to lose composure, because you see, at the highest level, if you concede early, it stabilizes your tactical plan. But they kept their composure. They considered the second goal, but they never lost touch of what they wanted to do. They stuck to the plan, and then they came back into the game again. And you see, the way the game was going, the way the Inter Milan was very defensive, the way they were deep, the way they were narrow, they were not able to expand themselves quickly. So yeah, it gave Barcelona a lot of the opportunity to expand quickly. And the moment they got the first goal, they knew that they could do it again, because a couple of weeks ago, they had done the same thing against Real Betis, going down 3-1, they came back to win the game 4-3. So it has given them a lot of momentum that no matter what they do, no matter whether they go down or not, they still have the prowess, they have the capacity, they have the technical ability, they have the players to come back into the game. And that's exactly what they did.
Interesting. So we're still here at Spice's Kitchen, Dansoman roundabout, where it's happening live, the watch along UEFA Champions League night here. And we've just witnessed the blockbuster over here. 6-goal thriller between Barcelona and Inter Milan heading to the second leg at the Giuseppe Meazza. And it's now time for the post-match analysis. Already we've had some interactions with the fans of Barcelona and then also Inter Milan. Some fans actually are neutrals, but then you definitely know that in football, once two teams are being pitched against each other, there's nothing like a neutral. But now let's go back to the game and let's talk about Lamine Yamal. What a game he had. What he actually brought Barcelona back to life. If not for that goal, that solo effort, I don't think Barcelona would have even ever said that they would have equalized both goals in the first half.
You know, Josiah, let me be fair to you. Okay, let me be fair to other pundits out there and other footballers out there. I can vouch for Lamine Yamal as one of the best footballers in the world currently. And the same, at this age, I am not going to compare him to anybody. I am not going to compare him to anybody we have seen proud. But you see, what Lamine Yamal is doing is out of the ordinary. You know, you have a player who was thrust into the limelight at 15 years, and you see, he was not overwhelmed. You understand? At 15 years, he was doing exactly what he's doing. He's now 16, going to 17, and he has carried Spain to win the European Championship. He is on the verge of carrying Barcelona into the Champions League finals. And you see, what phases me about Lamine Yamal is the fact that no matter the occasion, no matter the opponent, no matter the stadium, he brings out his best. Yeah. You understand? And look at the goal he took. You know, he's so confident to the extent that even when he's dribbling, he's not scared about the tackling. He's not scared about who is following him. He's not scared about who is in front of him. You know, he does what he does effortlessly. He does what he does as if he's been in the game for more than 15 years. He's not a veteran. He's a teenager who is 17 years, and what he's doing is akin, right, to what the best players have done proud. And I can say confidently that if we continue this trajectory, the Ballon d'Or and the FIFA best is not far from him.
Interesting. But what sort of second leg should we expect? Inter Milan, we've seen their strength, how clinical they can be. You know, just 7 attempts, 3 goals. They nearly scored a 4th until VAR had to chalk that one off. What sort of second leg should we expect from these two teams?
Well, Jose, I think on the day, one of the weaknesses that I witnessed from Inter is the fact that they were not able to break at pace. You understand? Not because they were not willing to, but they did not have the players to. We saw 2 very good situations for what's the name? Thuram. You understand? To break free, because he was giving a sumptuous a short pass. If he had pace, he could have gotten another 2 goals. You understand? But a lack of pace from Thuram made it impossible for him to take those chances. So I would expect that when they go to the Giuseppe Meazza in Italy, they should be more expansive. They should be more upfront, because I have realized with Barcelona that when you allow them keep the ball, it means that they're going to have total dominance. You understand? And that is what they've been able to exhibit over the past couple of years. But if you go at them, they tend to not play their game. If you destabilize them, if you notify the fact that they're going to keep the ball, and then you go at them, you're going to create chances. It's exactly what we did see today. When Inter did break, we realized that the Barcelona defenders were not able to withstand the test of Inter's attackers. So imagine in Italy, if they are able to sustain the pressure. Today, even though they had less than 35% of the ball, they were able to place chances where they could have won the game. So imagine if they were able to have about 40-45% of the game, and they are able to be expansive. And remember that during the first half and the second half as well, because they were very cohesive, because they were very glued to each other in the mid-third, they were not able to break early. So when in the second leg, if they really want to take the 3 points, or if they really want to qualify, I would expect them to be expansive. Yes, you would have to be careful defensively, because it is Barcelona you are playing against. But you would have to take the chances, because imagine if you lose the second match, there's nowhere for you to go. So you would have to take the chances and then have a go at them. And I do very well believe that if they have a go at Barcelona, they're going to have something out of the game.
Now, quickly before we wrap up, 2 injuries, one affecting either side. We have Jules Koundé, Barcelona, he had to limp off, and then Lautaro Martinez also had to be subbed off. You think which of these 2 players would actually be a huge blow, or whose absence would rather be a huge blow to their side?
Well, you would have to see the importance of each player to the tactical setup of each team. You understand? You look at Jules Koundé and you realize that he's a big part of what Barcelona is doing currently. You understand? Because he's very solid defensively. But you go to Lautaro Martinez as well, and you realize that he's the linchpin for this Inter Milan side. He's their main attacker. But I do very well believe that the fact that they were taken off doesn't mean that the injuries were that serious. They were precautionary so that they wouldn't miss the second leg. So I do very believe that we're going to have them back during the second leg.
But who are you tipping to go through?
Well, it's going to be very difficult, you understand, because based on what we have seen so far, it will be nerve-cracking for me to say that either Inter or Barcelona is going to qualify. But the fact that Barcelona was not able, to take advantage of the fact that they were playing in Spain, and the fact that they had the masses behind them, going to Inter Milan is going to be very difficult. I would say, based on precedent and based on what is happening currently, because you see, prior to the game, a lot of people did say that with Inter losing 3 games on the trot before coming into this game, it's going to be difficult for them to have enough to either topple or win the game. But here they have shown us that even though they have lost a couple of matches prior to this game, they could still be active and then put up a resistance. So I would say that should Inter, you see, even in their defensive setup, they were able to create chances and then score 3 goals. So imagine if they are flamboyant. Imagine if they are expansive. Imagine if they go on the attack. So if they are able to go on the attack, I can say that Inter is going to qualify. But it's going to be marginal. We are not going to see the kind of goals that we've seen today. That one is going to be more tactical and then more structured.
Interesting. All right. So all too soon we have to wrap up with the UEFA Champions League night watch along here from the Spices Kitchen at Dansoman Junction. It's been a real spectacle, an electrifying atmosphere from the blast of the whistle to the very end, and both sets of fans chanting throughout 90 minutes, the argument, everything, and that's why we love the Champions League. That's why we always want to gather at places like this to enjoy Champions League football. So we're not done, but then we'll be looking forward to the second leg games that will be coming off next week. PSG against Arsenal, and then also Inter Milan against Barcelona. And a big thank you to Force, for coming through for us, but then also to everyone who spoke to us actually. So that's it. But then we'll be back again with more UEFA Champions League action from the semi-final stage, and then you watch out for the big one itself, the grand finale.